Hello, A Push Summer Tutoring people. How are you guys doing? So, like I said yesterday, if you did watch the study video that I put out yesterday, I said that we are going at a fast-paced rate throughout American history thanks to the website studynotes.org. So we talked about the discovery and the settlement of the New World in review video number 1. If you have not watched it, go to Google Classroom right now and watch the video. Today we are going to talk about Europe and Impulde for exploration. So we are really focusing on Europe now because Europe plays a big role in American history. If you guys don't know, Revolutionary War. Yeah. So let's let's talk about Europe. Commerce. Europe experienced radical economic and social changes between the 11th and 14th century. The medieval world was based on feudalism, a highly regulated and hierarchical form of society in which everyone had their place and responsibility. The manorial system, in which lords owned the land worked by their vassals or serfs, started to wane in the late Middle Ages with the development of nation-states. Medieval cities, dominated by the guilds that brought economic stability, became the centers of commerce. So we see this development of cities in Europe. Many people moved from the country to the city where they found more opportunities to make a living. This demographic shift diluted the power of the feudal lords and forced them to make several compromises. For example, many people who remained in the country negotiated long-term leases for their own plots of land on which they could grow crops to sell or to feed their families. Medieval farmers also increased their crop yields and their profits by adapting the horse collar, an improved iron plow, and the three-field system of agriculture. Although many former feudal lords continued to receive a percentage of the harvest, an emerging cash economy undermined feudalism in the countryside and helped support a growing population throughout Europe. Economic changes further stimulated the growth of commerce. The emergence of capitalism created a largely urban middle class committed to expanding markets. National and international trade interests grew as more people looked to buy products and goods. So we see lots of economic changes in Europe in the 11th and 14th century, fueling this growth of exploration. How can we get more money? So that's how the seed got planted for exploration. Uniform printed documents, including sales receipts and licenses, also advanced the growth of commerce in Europe. Bills of exchange, which served as an early form of credit based on promissory notes, took the place of oral agreements in the purchase of products or services. The widespread use of printed documents increased the importance of reading and writing skills and allowed shoppers to compare the value of, hold on, I'm sorry, that sounds irritating. The printing of mercantile newspapers also promoted literacy. By learning about commercial laws and regulations and the dealings of other merchants, the middle class became more business savvy in their transactions and added to the economic burst. As the members of the middle class attained more wealth, their influence over government leaders increased. More importantly, from the perspective of American history, the emergence of capitalism and the growth of commerce gave impetus to voyages of trade and discovery. So that seed is being planted for exploration. And also, the seed is being planted for America's economic system, capitalism. The founding of the colonies in the New World coincided with the rise of mercantilism. Many European rulers during the 16th and 17th century embraced the precepts of mercantilism, an economic system that sought to increase national wealth through a strictly regulated economy and a favorable balance of trade. In short, a nation's strength was directly linked to its ability to be self-sufficient and accumulate capital. Colonies were acquired to supply raw materials to the mother country and served as exclusive markets for domestic manufactured goods. So we see this new colonies being emerged in the New World. This is the 13 colonies. We'll get more into the 13 colonies a little later down the road in 2 more videos. One of the first countries to embrace mercantilism in America was Spain, whose colonists existed primarily to increase national wealth and power. Commodities such as sugar and tobacco, as well as precious metals and jewels, plundered from the Indians, were sent directly to the mother country, and Spain's economy prospered. However, since most of the riches were used to create great displays of wealth for the nation's elite, and no new trade opportunities were developed, Spain remained a reasonably poor country. So the country that started this experiment into capitalism in the New World was Spain. But even though its economy prospered during this age of new capitalism, it remained a reasonably poor country. The English also embraced mercantilism as they entered the race for American colonies. Since the Dutch controlled a majority of the merchant vessels used to ship products from the New World, the English Parliament enacted the first of a series of navigation acts that permitted only English ships to carry American goods. The Navigation Act of 1660 enumerated specific commodities, including tobacco, sugar, and cotton, that could be shipped only within the English Empire. So the English Empire was very strict on what goods can be produced and who to trade with. This protective navigation system employed by Parliament was an immediate success. Merchant shipping increased dramatically at the expense of the Dutch, who ceded their colony of New Netherlands to the English. Ironically, the Navigation Acts, which ultimately drove a wedge between the American colonies and the mother countries, increased smuggling and hastening the march towards independence. So we see this independence sparks, sort of, in the colonies in terms of the strict trading rules and passed by the British Parliament. Let's go to technological factors. The explosion of trade opportunities in Europe and the discovery of riches in the New World prompted the development of better navigational tools. For years, mariners determined their latitudinal direction by following the east to west advancement of the sun and by tracking the movement of the stars at night. When land was out of sight, navigators could only refer to the speed of the ship and the time it took to reach a particular destination to estimate how far east or west they had traveled. As the voyagers traveled farther distances, they relied on a variety of both new and existing navigational tools to help them reach destinations safely. The most popular equipment used by seafaring explorers of the Middle Ages included compass. The compass had been used for centuries to determine direction. Early versions were crude and not always reliable. Mariners typically used compass only when it was cloudy because they did not get consistent readings. Astrolabe. The astrolabe was also a common instrument used for many years. It was used to measure the position of the sun, moon, planets, and stars. Navigators measured the angle of a celestial body above the horizon to determine their latitude positioning. A cross staff. Mariners used a cross staff to measure the height of objects above the horizon. This information helped them to determine how far north or south of the equator they were. And the most popular equipment used by seafaring explorers of the Middle Ages included the quadrant, the shipboard, and the hourglass. The age of exploration and lengthy sea voyages also triggered innovations in shipbuilding during the Middle Ages. One of the more popular vessels for open sea travel was the caravel, used by navigators from Spain, Portugal, and England. The caravel was a small but fast merchant ship that typically carried few weapons. An version improved version was rigged with both square and lengthen sails that increased its speed and maneuverability. Although popular types of ships, the carrack had sailed similar to those of the caravel. However, the carracks were much larger and slower than caravels and typically carried supplies. A poor design on early models caused the ships to tip over in strong winds. The most heavily armed merchant ship of the period was the Spanish galleon, built with enough guns and crew members to offer sufficient protection should it stray from the fleet. The Spanish galleon was used to carry gold, silver, or other riches from the Americas to Spain. So not much commentary on that section. The Middle Ages saw a bunch of developments in both seafaring and landfaring, exploration, tools, and weapons, and all this cool and neat stuff. So that was part 1 of this video. Please go to part 2 to finish. We will be talking about rise of nation states and exchanges. So I'll see you guys in part 2 of this video.